You know, it was Dallas, so we obviously wanted to beat them because they're just so arrogant, and you know, you just want to kick their ass every time you play them.
Well, the catch actually should have never happened. The play before, I missed Freddie Solomon, and he was wide open, and I overthrew him by he was only 5 or 6 yards away from me, and I think I threw it 3 feet over his head. You know, the one thing that Bill always taught was, hey, it doesn't matter what happens the play before, we just got to keep playing.
We're driving down on like the 15-yard line, 13-yard line. We're getting pretty close to the goal, and I come to the sideline, and I can hear Bill is talking on the headset to Sam White, and they're talking about sprint right option. I knew I had a chance to get the ball, but my main job was to help get Freddie open.
The catch happened mainly because Dwight and I practiced this thing in training camp.
So we would practice that a few times.
And Dwight never caught the ball on this play until then, and Bill made us do it. And we both thought he was crazy because, A, we never throw the ball to him.
Joe comes in the huddle and he says, okay, we're gonna run sprint option. He said, Freddie, I'm looking for you. And then he says to me as the huddle breaks, he says, you know, be ready if I have to come to you.
Freddie Solomon comes off like a basketball pick and he threw him the ball. And this time Freddie fell down, and luckily Dwight remembered what he was supposed to do and continued along the back of the end line, and I'm supposed to throw it above his head. 3
guys in his face on his back foot. Joe puts it in the exact spot that it had to be.
Usually it wasn't thrown that high, and when I let it go, I thought it was an arm's length above his head.
It was a double catch also. I mean, I knocked it down. My hands are flat, and it hits my hands, and I catch it on the way down.
I didn't really see it until we got in the locker room.
It was just an absolutely perfect throw, and in this magical moment, Joe Montana got it done.
That game right there was an emotional roller coaster. It was the most I've ever seen a game go up and down, up and down.
It's Drew Brees and the Saints and great receivers.
That team that we had played that year had set, I don't know how many kind of records on offense, and I don't know how many people were giving us a chance.
And they come back, and they come back, and they come back, and suddenly it's a competitive game.
It was a headache. Couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just stressful. They would score, we would score, they would score. It was just pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling.
And it gets down to the final 4 minutes. Those final 4 minutes, I think, live in NFL history as one of the great closing acts of any postseason game.
Well, the Vernon Post was originally an idea of Jeep Christ. We put it into production, or put it on the assembly line, tweaked a few things here or there, feeling like it'd be a good play.
New Orleans was starting to just open up the middle of the field, and they were trying to take things away outside, but they continued to play that cover 2 defense.
They'd been blitzing us all day. We'd hit them with a few big plays, and we were just hedging our bets that they'd be playing cover 2.
And we're all thinking field goal. Kick the field goal, we'll go to overtime. And thankfully for the 49ers, the coaches didn't think that way.
We made the decision that we were going to go for the win. We didn't want to go to overtime. We wanted to win the game then.
It was the last time my name was called that day. I was up, Vernon Post. Looked at Alex, he looked back at me. I took off, got to about 10 yards, planted with my left foot. As soon as I could turn, the ball was right on me.
And Alex threw the pass of his life because he had to throw it.
I still say the best throw he's ever made.
The rest is history.
We, as broadcasters, try and pride ourselves on some level of detachment.
I know I stepped on Ted and his call, but I couldn't help it.
3rd down, Alex takes the snap. Alex looking.
Got it!
Post, and it's got it! Touchdown! Touchdown 49!
Vernon got jarred, held the ball, and delirium.
The entire stadium exploded at once.
Perfect play.
When I got up, all I could feel was tears running down my eyes.
It was an epic play. That really was the end to an epic game.
The post to Vernon was a new beginning. It was the new 49er era officially being born.
I'm sure in the back of his mind he was thinking about breaking that record.
Going into that Monday night game, I was 3 short of breaking Jim Brown's record.
He came out ready to go like he always does.
And I can remember early in the game, Steve threw a big touchdown pass to him.
The first one was a post route, which I called, and somehow I stumbled into the end zone. The second one was a reverse.
That one was a special one.
And I saw all these guys running down. I was thinking like, what is it? What's going on? And they were like, he just tied Jim Brown's record. I was like, okay, I got you.
The third one, George Seifert had taken us out of the football game, and all of a sudden he came down the bench, he looked at Steve and I and said, hey, look, I'm gonna give you guys one opportunity to break this here at home. And we ran back onto the football field. Everybody in the stadium knew exactly what was getting ready to happen. Then Steve Young snapped the ball, dropped back, threw the spiral.
Jumped up over the defender's head.
It was up in the air, and everything that Bill Walsh had taught me, to go up and catch the ball at its highest peak. I went up,
caught the ball, and then scored a touchdown. And at that moment, I said, I gotta go get him. So I sprinted as fast as I could down there, sprinted, and got him, picked him up. And you kind of throw that number one hand up.
It's not like he was going out trying to break the record. I think the record just got broke.
And that was Jim Brown's record on Monday Night Football, and it's something I'll never forget.
Well, there was so much emotion around that game because of the history of the two teams.
So the Packers had become the Cowboys.
The 49ers had lost 5 consecutive times to the Packers going into that game, and there were all sorts of connections. Steve Mariucci had been the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for the Green Bay Packers, and Mike Holmgren was the head coach. Mike Holmgren at this point was 5-0 against San Francisco.
He'd taken everything that Bill Walsh taught and took it to Green Bay, and so it was like playing ourselves, so it was very frustrating.
Steve Young had never beaten Brett Favre.
Brett Favre took the lead late in the game with a Q8 or a sprint right option, the same play that Joe threw to Dwight Clark for the catch, to take the lead against us. They're using our plays in Candlestick in the playoffs to take the lead.
Steve Young wasn't going to let it happen on that particular day.
We had to beat the Packers. We had to come back.
He had a great drive down the field to get inside the 25-yard line, but the clock is down to 8-9 seconds. That's all that's left in the game.
It's all go, last play.
As he goes back to throw the ball, he falls.
I trip, and I came up and looked, and there's this big hole that shouldn't be there.
So he throws the pass over the middle.
Owen! Caught it! He caught it! And he makes the winning touchdown catch!
I just remember feeling like this is the greatest moment.
He hangs onto the ball, breaks out in tears, goes over and hugs Steve Mariucci. It was as dramatic an ending as you will ever see in a football game.
I don't believe it! One of the greatest finishes in 49er history!
I remember standing on the sideline and we just hoping for something to happen.
I was backing up, trying to get into this lineup, and whenever I got a chance to play, it was, you can't screw this up, we have to win.
It was just neat to see Steve have a true time in history as well.
And all of a sudden, he just took off running.
I started to scramble.
He was running all over the football field.
It was one of those deals where he just couldn't go down.
And all I can think of is run, rabbit, run, because there was a bunch of hound dogs after you.
One guy make a block, and all these receivers, John Taylor just, oh, by the way, I got a block too.
You start this way, and oh, there's trouble over there. You come back this way.
Gets away again, and gets away again.
I bet you he probably ran 300 yards in that touchdown. Just going from side to side, stopping, going back, starting back.
The thing is, I always give Steve a hard time because he stumbled into the end zone.
And my legs just quit.
Yeah, he was falling because his legs couldn't handle no more.
And I fell into the end zone, and We won the game.
It was great and it was exciting. We came out with the victory.
But it was just an outstanding play, and to me, just typical Steve Young.
Gets away again.
I can remember we were down 35-7. Joe was backing up Steve DeBerg.
Well, the Saints were pretty bad, and we thought we had a pretty good chance to beat them. The Saints fans that were in the stands had the bag on their heads, and the ain'ts, I think is what they called them. Before you knew it, it was 35-7, and we were getting our butts kicked.
Things just were not going our way offensively or defensively, and Bill called us up and said, look guys,
don't embarrass yourselves.
And let's try to build something going forward to the end of the game, and let's get something going positive, so get us into next week.
And Joe came in and did classic Joe.
As bad as the first half was, the second half was that great.
And Joe put on a show.
Personally, what I remember is every point counted.
Joe just sliced their secondary apart.
You could just feel the momentum shift.
All of a sudden, we're only 2 touchdowns behind, and before we knew it, it was tied, and we were going into overtime.
When you look in the dictionary and you look up field general, there should be a picture of Joe Montana.
After the game, we couldn't believe we had come back and won, but Bill's point at that juncture of the situation was, men, we'll pull from this game for the rest of our careers. We'll know that we're never out of a game because we just came back from 28 points behind the greatest comeback in NFL history. When you think you're down and out against anybody else in the future, remember this game and remember we can come back and win.
That victory lap that Steve took is one that we probably all could have taken, if not for the fact that we were exhausted.
That game, whew, good gracious, just makes electricity run throughout my body. This was it. This was the most important game of the year. This was a must-have game. The energy, just the whole week. When you walked into the stadium, the fans were out there a little earlier than normal. You could see the focus and the concentration in each guy's eyes and on their face. Just everybody was ready.
We jumped on them early and we stayed on them, and they fought like a champion is supposed to fight.
Intercepted by Eric Davis. And Davis will score for the 49ers.
Whoever won that game was winning the Super Bowl, and we knew it, and you could feel it, and every fan in that stadium knew it, and every fan in that stadium, all of the faithful were there with their fists balled up right behind us, ready to swing.
And I can remember at the end of the game, I was standing by him in the huddle. He looked up, and we were going to call one of those quarterback kneel-down plays, and I think he was starting to tear up a little bit.
At the end of it, everyone sort of released in a different manner. Steve decided to take a trip around.
We couldn't stop him. You had people trying to, pull him to the side and stop him for interviews. He just was so excited. And more importantly, just the way he shared it with the fans. And that was the day that Steve Young went down in history, and then eventually on to win the Super Bowl after that, and the Super Bowl MVP, throwing 6 touchdown passes. So, all of his teammates were very happy for him, and that's the day that put him in the Hall of Fame.
I remember the entire week, one of the focus, at least in my mind, and I know the offensive line, was to make sure that they protected Joe very well.
I think the guys who had the most concern in that game really were the offensive linemen. Their coach, Bob McKittrick at the time, threatened them with, I don't know with what, but they were all going, oh no, Bob's going to have our head if we let somebody hit you today. A little worrisome for a little bit, at least till I took the first hit. I was only 187 pounds, I think, coming back from there. I really wasn't back to my full weight and strength, but physically I was ready to go. And I kind of looked for it in the game anyway, just to get that first hit out of the way, but this game more so than ever.
The thing about Joe is the way he can come back from injuries. We were playing the St. Louis Cardinals.
Little did we know that Joe would come out and just fire 3 touchdown passes.
Joe was electric all day long.
Going deep, he's throwing to the goal line to Rice. Touchdown, 49ers!
Joe was so precise in his passing, in his selection and judgment.
Didn't miss hardly any throws, and we beat up on the Cardinals that day.
It was a great way to have your star quarterback return back to play.
Just to see this guy come back from injury like that, get back on the football field, and just be Joe of old really shows that he had a lot of character, he had a lot of heart.
Driving up to that stadium that day, just the atmosphere. Here it was, early January, and it was playoff time.
How bad do you want it today? I expect to be playing next week. That is on 3. 1, 2, 3.
First play for us, we run a drag hook combination, and I hit Terrell Owens right in the chest with the football. He bounces off 2 defenders, and there he goes. We're on top. Game starting off great for us first quarter. As the game progressed, things got more difficult for us as a team. And even though that first half I think was still fairly close, that third quarter is when they really started to separate themselves. We had to put drives together.
Those big plays in the passing game with Jeff Garcia, he kept his poise. I mean, it's easy to put your head down when you're down by 28 when things don't look good. The momentum swung to our favor, and Jeff was delivering the football.
Nobody was hanging their head. Nobody had lost hope.
And then all of a sudden, we just hit that streak, and momentum swung our way.
We take a 1-point lead.
And then, you know, the notorious
bad snap, the ball being thrown in the air.
Pass interference at the end.
They had issues there.
Which there's no way they're going to call that.
Madness happens.
But at the same time, I mean, this lineman, he's not going to catch it, let's be real.
At the end of the game, though, the feeling of elation, the emotion to win such a game of such magnitude was unbelievable. That moment right there, I wish I could have bottled.
We had a leader in Bill Walsh. Before that game, he got up on his toes boxing and started talking about these guys don't know what they going into. We're the champ. They going in and they just hitting the ribs and they think they winning, and then next thing you know, second, third round they get knocked out. He said, that's what we're gonna do.
And I'm thinking in my mind, they really don't know, do they? They really think that they're gonna come here and win? They ain't came in Candlestick and won yet.
It's gonna be some moments in the game where they may get up or get the ebbs and flows of it, but we're gonna win. We're gonna win at the end.
I can remember that game, reflecting back on that game, I can remember the Rams being up 3-0.
It was almost like, okay, we know what we gotta do. Let's play our game. We can't worry about them. Let's just play our game.
Flipper Anderson broke loose on a long route, and Running Lock comes out of nowhere and knocks the ball down. And so that was a shift of the game for us to change our momentum. And it wasn't so much the star players stepping up the game, it was the role players that made the difference. You know, guys like Tom Rathman, Brent Jones, and Mike Cofer. Mike Cofer kicked 3 field goals. The role players stepped it up and showed that, you know, we were a team. You can't just worry about the star guys. You know, that's what separates our team from all the other teams throughout the league. We believe in one another.
When you know what your teammate's gonna do, you can almost anticipate anything.
And it was just a great victory for us.
You know, when the Rams came in town, it wasn't how we're gonna win. It's just that, you know, they were just a foe that we had to go through.